So last week મેં કહ્યું હતું કે Tattvartha Sutra is divided into 10 adhyayas or chapters. We started with chapter 1 which we looked at Samyak Gyan, and then we looked at Jeev, which was in chapter 2. Then chapter 3 and chapter 4 were Swarglok and Narglok. And chapter 5 we are looking at the Shah Dravyas or the 6 Dravyas that compose the universe. Why are we looking at chapter 5 and why are we looking at these things which Gharan entitled? Why is this? I was told at home, okay, why is this relevant? Well, the reason why it's relevant is because as souls we operate in this environment, and it's very important for us to understand which environment our Atma operates in, just as other bits of space operate in as well. I mean, other bits of Dravyas. So we looked at the Jain cosmology basically, which was covered when Sandipbhai covered Narglok and Swarglok. But the top bit, which is the yellow bit, is the Siddhshila. Then you have this whole like a diamond shape, which goes to the middle, which is a semicircle, and that's where humans or we all live. And so the top bit, all those ladder, that very fine ladder you see, is the Swarglok, which is where the heavens are, where the Dev-Devis reside. And the wider ladder which is going down is the Naraklok, which is where the infernal beings reside. Okay? And all of that diamond shape and this triangular shape is called the Lokakash. All the space outside it is the Alokakash. Okay? The reason why this is defined is because, as I told you last week, Lokakash is defined on the basis of where Dharma and Adharma Shtikai play a role. Now, who was not here last week? Okay, quite a few were. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start and I'm going to run through from verse 1. But prior to that, I want to give you some definitions because I made a mistake, and I think it's very important that you understand the definitions, the terminology which I'm going to be using. Okay? So according to the Jain philosophy, the main factor of the universe is Dravya, which is substance, which is broadly divided into two categories: Jeev, which is living, એટલે આપણા soul, and Ajeev, which is non-living. Okay? We believe that a substance has infinite qualities. Everything in this universe is either Jeev or Ajeev or a combination of both. How can we have a combination of both? Body. So we are all a combination of Ajeev and Jeev. Okay? So, these are the 6 Dravyas. Jeev on one side, Ajeev on the other side. Ajeev is again subdivided into Pudgal, Dharma, Adharma, Akash and Kal. Now, all these 5 things are called Ashtikai. Okay? Ashtikai means they are bodies. Kaya means body. Okay? And Ashtikai means they are you can perceive them, in the sense that you don't physically see them, but you can actually perceive them. So the classification of substance is Dravya, the classification of matter is what we will look at, and the classification of Jeev or soul we did in chapter 2. The unit of space is called Pradesh, unit of time is called Samay, and unit of matter is called Anu. Okay? Now, space is the whole space occupied in that diamond and the triangular shape. That is Pradesh. It's made up of tiny space points, which are called Pradesh. Unit of time is Samay. And unit of matter, which is Pudgal, is Anu. So, the smallest particle of a Pudgal is an Anu. Okay? So, I'm sorry this is very tiny, but I was sort of trying to. So, Dravya or substances have some common attributes or guns such as Astitva, that means they exist. They are indestructible, they are permanent, and the capacity by which a substance cannot be destroyed. Okay? Vastutva, which is functionality, capacity by which a substance has function. Dravyatva, capacity by which it is always changing in modification. So all these dravyas are indestructible, they have a functionality, they perform a function. And they have a capability, Dravyatva means they are modifying, all the time they are modifying. Prameyatva, which is capacity by which it is known by someone or being the subject matter of knowledge, which is what we are doing. We are using that as a study. Okay? And aguru laghutva, now this is a very important definition in Jainism. A capacity by which one attribute or substance does not become another, and substance does not lose the attributes whose grouping form the substance itself. Now, just let me explain that. So what this aguru laghutva does is, for example, in the space you've got dharmashtikai operating on one side, and you've got adharmashtikai operating on the other side. They, although they merge into each other, they do not take on each other's functionality. They do not take on each other's attributes. They still are able to maintain their own identity as whatever their function is, whatever they are required to do, they will do. So they do not. Similarly with Akash itself, it doesn't, although it provides a platform for all these things to operate, it doesn't merge with them. Similarly, our souls, they float around in the whole of Lokakash. They will not merge and they will not change their attributes, or the qualities do not change. I know it sounds very abstract, but it can happen. So for example, you will have, say, chemical reactions, where you take one chemical and you mix it with another chemical and it forms a third chemical. These things do not do that. Okay? And Pradesh Tattva, which is capacity of having some kind of location in space. So they have some area which they occupy. Okay? So there are some specific attributes that distinguish the dravyas from each other. Chetanatva, that means consciousness, and amurtatva, which is immateriality. That means they are amurtik. They do not have a physical form. Okay? Some of them. These are the common attributes of the class of substance, soul or jeev. Okay? So a soul can either be in a form, which is what we have as a body, or it can be without a form. Achetanatva, that means non-consciousness, and murtatva, which is materiality and attributes of matter or pudgal. And achetanatva, non-consciousness, and amurtatva are common to motion, rest, time, and space. Okay, so this is just, I'm setting the scenario. So then I'm going to come to pudgal. Pudgal is a mixture of two words, which is joining and breaking. Pudgals are matter and associated energy. So it's a combination of matter and energy. They are constituted of atoms, anu, okay, which is parmanu or anu. They are too fine to be perceived by us, so we cannot see them physically. They are, as I told you last week, they are even tinier than the tiniest scientific discovery which I talked about was Planck last week. I don't know if you remember. And there is still superstring theory, and there's all kinds of scientific theories which are there. But what Jainism says is that parmanu, anu or anu is so fine, it is so tiny that it cannot be divided any further. When combined together, they form a larger size. So for example, we are made up of millions and millions, infinite parmanus, okay? Similarly, all the things that you see around you, living things that you see around you, or even books and speakers and light, they are all made up of tiny, 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 tiny atoms. When combined, they form like ears, eyes, nose, and whatever. And karmic matter is also a pudgal. And this is why we are learning all these things. Because next, when we look at the whole theory of karma, you will realize why karmas operate in this whole thing and how karmas affect us as jeev. So how does ajeev and jeev, how do they interact? They interact through the form of these various bodies that we carry with us. Pudgal possesses at all times 4 qualities, namely color, taste, smell, and certain kind of palpability, which is spursh or touch. Okay? These qualities vary from time to time. For instance, a red color being replaced by blue, or a sweet taste by bitter, and it could be even a combination of those tastes, of those things. So it just varies. So there are 4 divisions of pudgal. Okay? First of all, there is skand. So a whole thing, this is a skand. Okay? Skand desh. So this is a portion. So for example, I would say a page is skand desh. in this book. But if I were to tear this page out and use it on its own, it becomes a skand. Do you understand? Yeah, if you take, say, a pencil, and that was the example I used, and you slice a pencil into half, and you sharpen both pencils, that you can use them independently as two pencils, can you not? Yeah? But the sharpened bits which come off, the lead which comes off when you sharpen it, that is a pradesh, that is part of a skand. Okay? I mean, skand desh, that means it's a part or a portion. Skand pradesh is even a smaller part. And Parmanu is the smallest part. Do you understand? Stop me if you are not clear, please. Don't stare blankly at me and the screen. Sachen Uttamne Kauchu, stop me, because it's very, I know some of these things are very difficult. When I was learning this several years ago, and then when I was reading it again on the train, and I'm thinking, and I stare at all these people around me in the train, and they're probably wondering, but anyway, so this is, yeah, so you need to, it's very important that you need to understand. Pudgal can be solid, gaseous, liquid energy, fine karmic particles or varganas as they are called, and extra fine like the tiniest of atom, okay, which is Anu. Now, Jainism and Albert Einstein. The reason why I use Albert Einstein, no other scientist, is because he's the singular most influential scientist in 20th century. Albert Einstein is considered as one of the most influential scientists of all time. His theory of relativity deals with the fundamental ideas such as time, space, mass, motion, and gravitation. If we compare these substances with Einstein's fundamental ideas, it would seem that his 5 elements, time, mass, space, motion, and gravitation, are the same as the 5 achieved substances. Time is Kal, space is Akash, mass is Pudgal, and motion is Dharma and Adharma, which is no motion. Okay? Gravitational force is also derivative of Pudgal. Gravitation is also a Pudgal. We also consider electromagnetic force as a derivative of Pudgal. But we recognize as change one more substance, and that is consciousness or Jeev. Okay? We recognize the existence of the 5 ashtikais, which are eternal categories of being, which together make up the dravya or substance of the universe. Yeah? So are you clear? So this is where I made a mistake. Sorry, I was going to tell you. I said that a Pudgal is the same as an atom. They are not. An atom is part of a Pudgal. Yeah? That's my mistake last week. So, the first verse. Ajiv kaya dharma dharma kash Pudgala. So what basically this verse says is that there are these things that operate in space. They are dharmashtikaya, which is the medium of motion. There is adharmashtikaya, which is medium of rest. There is akash itself, and then there is matter, which is Pudgal. They are called bodies, just as the body is a conglomerate of matter, Pudgal. These are also made up of manifold space points of pradesh. So Pudgal ni andar e pradesh hoy and anu e hoy. And anu occupy a pradesh, a space point. So one anu, like that. And those are also space points. Yeah? Tiny, 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 very tiny, you can't even see them. Pudgal and Jeev cannot realize their potential in absence of dharma and adharma. Okay? So, for example, our soul cannot move from this body to another body if there was no dharmashtikai. It cannot enter another body and stay there if there was no adharmashtikai. It would just float away somewhere. If there was only dharmashtikai operating and there was no thing which stops it, it would just be floating away. Similarly, all this matter that you see, even the bricks that are constructed, they would all not be able to stay. We might say it's because of cement, and we've used all this dravya, all this Pudgal, which we are using to actually stick it. But actually, if there was no such thing as dharmashtikai and adharmashtikai, these things would not stay here. They would just float around anywhere. Okay, and which would then totally defeat the whole definition of what happens, why are we human, why do we have bodies, why are we, in this, why are there other animals? We would all be sort of floating around, bits of us. Yeah, so dharmashtikai and adharmashtikai are very, very important. So the second verse was these four are substances, which is dravya, which is what I explained. The third one is jivascha, that means souls are living beings and are also substances, that means they are also dravya. Thus there are six substances, which is what I talked about earlier, pudgal, dharmashtikai, adharmashtikai, akash, kal and jiv. Definition of substance which has qualities and modes is a substance. Okay? Substance means dravya has qualities, it has certain characteristics, astitva. Okay, it has certain characteristics and it can change with time. These substances are eternal, non-destructible, fixed in number, which is number 4. Nitya vastithanya rupani, that means arupani, that means nitya means they are forever existing, they do not get destroyed. Rupina pudgalaha, matter has taste, smell, color and touch and therefore has form. Matter is made up of atoms and molecules. So matter is, what is matter? Pudgal. The medium of motion, the medium of rest, space, each is a single continuous extension with regard to substance, but with regard to place, time and thought, each substance is innumerable or infinite. So, akashad ka dravyani, which is the medium of motion, medium of rest. Dharmashtikai, adharmashtikai and space is a continuous thing. It is not one body, another body, another body. It's a continuous mass. Okay?
Sandeep?
Yeah?
Is soul a matter?
Soul is not a matter. Soul is dravya. Soul to composition is a different thing. It's not pudgal. Soul is made up of things, but it is not pudgal. It is not matter. Matter here is defined as something which is non-living.
Is anything but?
Yeah. But it is made up of bits of something. But soul as a soul, I'm using this actually, we do not know. Okay, soul no shape, suche, okay? But soul cannot be split. It cannot change its modes. Okay? Soul pote it cannot change its modes. So soul ni je qualities che, which is anant virya, anant knowledge, anant darshan, whatever. Those qualities will not change. It will still modify, but it will modify in the terms of body that it will take. Sorry, your question was?
Yeah, so it's not physical in that sense.
Soul is not physical.
Yeah.
But wherever soul inhabits is physical. So, stop me please if you're confused, okay, you're not sure. Don't just stare blankly at me, but you go home and you think I samajh na paidi. Yeah. So medium of motion, medium of rest, space, each is a single continuous extension, as I told you, and each substance is innumerable or infinite. These three, that is medium of motion, medium of rest, are also without activity since they are spread all over. So they do not actually have any kriya. The word is nishkriyani cha. That means they do not do any kriya in the sense that they do not physically, but they just exist. And they allow things to function the way they function. So there are innumerable space points in the medium of motion, the medium of rest, and in each individual soul. One space point is occupied by one elementary particle of matter, parmanu or anu. Okay? The space points in space are infinite, which is number 9. Do you find that I'm rushing? Because we covered this last week, but I'm just going through that because what happened was Rajivbhai did do this, and then we had Ketanbhai who did this whole concept of infinity and how it worked, and I thought it would be good to just connect everything. So then I gave you this table, and I said that Dharmashtika is eternal, it has no form and color and whatever, it does not move, and it has got innumerable space points. Adharmashtikai, the same. Akashashtikai, again the same, except that Lokakash is innumerable. So that is, so Akashashtikai is made up of Lokakash and Alokakash. Yeah, I told you that shape, which is like this, is Lokakash. This shape outside it, that area is Alokakash.
Dharmashtikai is not Pudgal.
Dharmashtikai is Pudgal.
Is Pudgal. You said Pudgal is taste.
Oh no, sorry, Dharmashtika is not Pudgal, it's Dravya. Anything which has taste, form, matter, color is Pudgal.
In essence, what we've got 6 Dravyas split. As in the first slide saying we've got Jiv, which is soul, and everything that isn't soul is Ajiv, and within that Ajiv we've got these 5 elements of matter as well as the mediums of motion and time and space.
Now, the reason why it is important for us to know is that the soul operates in the same environment as Pudgals operate. Souls and Pudgals have a relationship which goes from time immemorial, and it will continue having a relationship into time in the future. Okay? Which is why Aplayabadha in human form shape. That relationship is the essence of Jain Dharma. That to understand that relationship is what Jain Dharma is. Okay? Which is why I'm describing this whole thing of how things operate. So Dravya are these things which facilitate how matter will operate in this thing, and matter operates together with soul. So matter or Pudgal is numerable, innumerable and infinite space points. The one difference between Pudgal and other substance of non-living is that Pradesh of Pudgal can be separated. So Rajesh, this is your answer. So one difference between Pudgal and other substances of non-living, other Dravyas, is that Pradesh of a Pudgal can be separated from the aggregate, but the Pradeshis of the other 4 substances cannot. So the other 4 substances, which is Adharmashtikai, Dharmashtikai, Akash, cannot be split. It's just one continuous mass. It cannot be divided. The only thing which can be divided is Pudgal. Okay? The aggregate is not a definite form as it can change. So this combination can change. It can move like an amoeba. One cluster of Pudgals can be made up of numerable, innumerable and infinite Pradesh or space points. It is possible. Dharma and Adharma occupy the entire Lokakash. However, Pudgal can occupy a small point of Lokakash, it can occupy a part of Lokakash, and it can occupy the whole of Lokakash. Clear? And then I showed you this image of these 2 candles which basically merge, which is how Dharmashtika and Adharmashtika operate. They merge. But if you separate the 2 candles, they will still have individual flames. Yet when they combine, it becomes like a one flame. Yeah. The reference here is to Anu. So this one is number 11. The smallest particle of Pudgal. The element unit of matter is extremely small compared to atom in today's science, and is indivisible and occupies one space point or Pradesh. A subtle constituent part in whose case it is not possible to subdivide it. So Pradesh even you can't subdivide, and Anu you can't subdivide. Pradesh, Anu occupies one Pradesh which you can't subdivide, but you can have another Anu on top of it, you can have another Anu on top of it, you can have another Anu on top of it, and it can form something, okay? A space unit is measured as space occupied by one atom, yet it is possible for an infinite number of atoms to occupy one space unit or Pradesh, which is why you can have infinite number of matter occupying an innumerable area. Innumerable means it is countless, but it is still countable. Infinite means it is just so vast, you just can't count it. The media of motion, rest, time and the souls and matter are located in the space of universe, which I told you, it's located in Lokakash. Okay, Lok means to perceive, and that's what it is. All substances are self-supporting, but Akash acts as a boundary. And the reason why Akash, so there's not like a physical boundary which is like that. The reason why that boundary is defined is because that is where Dharmashtika and Adharmashtika operate. So the area in which Dharmashtika and Adharmashtika operate necessarily are defined in that shape, and that is Lokakash, and the rest is Alokakash. The media of motion rest pervade the entire universe space, and both coexist without interference. As I told you, Aguru Lagutva, yeah? The units penetrate each other without any resistance. And then matter or Pudgal occupy from one space to innumerable space points. The entire cosmic space is densely packed with diverse and infinite times infinite subtle gross clusters of matter. એટલે ઝીણા 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 આખા યુનિવર્સમાં છે. So the soul again can occupy innumerable space points in the Lokakash. It can extend, contract and expand depending on the karma. So you can have dinosaurs, you can have humans, you can have dwarfs, you can have children, babies, all of that. That's because of this thing. Soul's units here, Rajesh, are indivisible, non-detachable like Pudgal, and they do not have smell, taste, color and touch. The soul, as I said, can expand. Medium of motion, rest, space and matter do not obstruct the soul's occupation, neither do they lose their identity. So this is again, they do not mix with each other. I mean, they mix with each other, but they still keep their identity. A worldly soul is accompanied by karmic body, and karmic body is composed of infinite times infinite atoms. If an individual soul occupies an innumerable part of cosmic space, how can infinite times infinite souls in existence each have their own body be accommodated in Lokakash? Because the souls fall into two classes, subtle and gross. Okay? Apne gross che. So we can only occupy, I can only occupy that space. And if Rajiv were to come and stand here, he can't stand on top of me unless he crushed me. Okay? But there are certain souls which are so subtle that they can actually stay in one place and now bicho soul and bicho soul. For example, Sid Shila. એ લોકો કે અનંત આત્મા સિદ્ધ શિલામાં ગયા છે અને હજી બીજા અનંત જાશે. દેશે પાલીતાણાના ડુંગરના એક એક કાકરામાંથી સિદ્ધ થયેલા છે. તો એ બધા ક્યાં રહેતા હશે? Because the space I showed you was a small space. It's because a soul has the capability of they are so subtle, that energy is so subtle that it can stay on top of each other like this. Yeah. Even it can merge with each other, but they would still retain their qualities. Each individual soul would retain its qualities. So the space points of a soul can change by contraction, expand. This is again repetition. Okay, so soul can become big, it can become small. Example, a small pot or a huge room. And they just help. Example, a fish in water, where water only facilitates. So Dharmashtika and Adharmashtika help the soul to move from one area to another, as I was explaining to you the other time. And the space just provides accommodation for everything. Like for example, apne આ room માં છે, if this room was not there, we would not be seated here, we would be in some other place. Even if we sit outside, there would still be a compound or something, you can't sit in the middle of a road. Yeah. And then I looked at the soul itself and I said Opshamik. Now these are the bhavs, okay? This will come into when we do the karma theory. So Opshamik is the subsidence of karmas, Kshayik is the destruction of karmas, Kshayaksham is the combination of subsidence and destruction, Odarik is the actual body which is the manifestation of karmas, and Parinamik has nothing to do with karmas but what manifests naturally. Okay, and then I explained all of these, which we talked about when we were doing chapter 2. Now, there are 5 types of bodies which the soul can go with. Okay, there is Odarik or gross body, which is the physical body, which you and all of us have. There is Vaikriyak body, which is fluid or protein, ever-changing body, which is made up from clusters of Pudgal with superpowers. Devas and infernal, sorry, not internal, infernal beings possess this. Alright, okay. So that means they can convert, they can change shape, they can move from instantly like you see in the Superman, superpower, super movies, superheroes. Okay. Aharak is a conveyance body. Aharak is a very auspicious particles and purely normally possessed by a very elevated soul. So for example, they said Kunkund Acharya actually moved to Mahavidya Kshetra and he got, he listened to Shimandar Swami's sermon and he came back to our world and he wrote Samay Sarne, Niyam Sarne. So this is using Aharak body. Okay, so certain elevated souls have this. They can also use this energy from here to resolve issues. Yeah. Tejas, which allows digestion and gives glow, which gives us energy effectively. And Karman body is made up of clusters of Pudgal, and this is composed of 8 types of karma. Okay. So the function of matter is to form the basis of the body. Whatever soul possesses, whether speech organ, respiratory system or mind, is a result of interaction with matter. Breathing in and out is also Pudgal. Okay. Similarly, our physical mind, psychic mind is also due to Pudgal. Okay. The ability to benefit the soul or be a hindrance is also due to Pudgal. So for example, when we breathe in and when we breathe out, okay, we breathe in, we give benefit to the soul because we are alive and therefore we are able to do good deeds. When that breath stops, death is also Pudgal. Life is also Pudgal. Okay, the soul doesn't die. What dies? The body dies. Therefore, the impact on soul by virtue of its interaction with Pudgal can be considered Upkar of Pudgal. So Pudgal actually gives a benefit to the soul. It can be both. It can be a benefit and it can be a hindrance. Now, I come to the next one. The function of matter is also to contribute sensuous pleasure, suffering, life, death of living beings. And again, it's regarded as benevolence. Now, can somebody tell me what this picture means? But શું તમે શું દેખાય છે? Describe કરો.
Two souls together.
Two souls together. What else? Anybody?
Is it Paraspar Prayog?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what this tree is describing is that somebody is pouring water at the tree. The tree is obviously very happy and it's flowering and it's flourishing and it's producing fruit. And somebody is plucking the fruit and somebody is eating and then they are putting the whole thing, it's a cycle of birth, a cycle of living. That is what this is. Okay? How we have leaves in autumn falling over, now we have new leaves coming in, then we had flowers, we had autumn flower and spring flowers coming in, beautiful ones. Then we will have fruit, then birds will eat fruit, then they will throw the seeds. Then the seeds will grow into a new tree. Yeah, so this is what this is. So now, what do you understand by this? Parasparo graho jivanam. So we are interdependent. Okay, the function of the soul is to render services, usefulness to one another. Each soul is entangled with all the rest in the universe. We are influenced by the rest, which is why ahimsa is. Guys, come on, don't sleep. Wow, what is ahimsa? Paramo dharma. It's not only in Jainism. If you look at it, it's a moral underlying thing for any living beings. All living beings want to live. All living beings want to achieve their fullest potential. Okay? And that is why this verse has been used so much in Jainism. Even in Pratikraman Sutra it comes. So the reason why this is used is because it is telling you okay, we are all interdependent, and the reason we are interdependent is because Pudgals make us work like that. Now Pudgals will make us do anything, okay? Karmas will make us do anything, because karma now they are like we will function in a particular way. Still, control આપણા હાથમાં છે. We are not machines. Okay, you've been given this ability to decide okay, what is right, what is wrong. એ પુદ્ગલનું જ કામ છે. Deciding, your mind is thinking what is right, what is wrong. That is still Pudgal. How to use your senses? Senses are still Pudgal. Even the using of senses is Pudgal. But the decision how to use your senses is in the control of what you want to do. That ability to even think positively for yourself is Pudgal. Yeah, and that is why Akho chapter is so powerful and so critical. Okay, so now we have come to this place, this thing called Mach's principle. Okay, in theoretical physics, particularly in discussions of gravitation theories, Mach's principle is a name given by Einstein to a hypothesis often credited to the physicist and philosopher Ernst Mach, who was a German. Okay, the inertial mass of a particle is a result of the interaction of mass of other bodies in the rest of the universe. Okay, extending it to life, life of even the smallest being is a result of interaction of life in the rest of the universe. So પરસ્પર ગ્રહો જીવનમાં આવી ગયું ને કે we are interacting, we are all dependent upon each other. No one can survive by himself. That is, if I destroy all life for this earth, I will automatically cease to exist. If all trees were eliminated, if all animal species were eliminated, do you think we would survive? We would not survive. There is a big talk about bees getting extinct, isn't it? Have you been watching the news? How many of you know that bees ochi thai in this world? Yeah? And so they are saying that therefore we will reach a future where a lot of the plants, all these fruit trees will not get pollinated, so will not get fruit. So, you know, I don't know, have you been to Kew Gardens? How many of you been to Kew Gardens? So, you know, they've done a whole like a beehive, which they've connected to a real beehive. This one is made out of, I don't know what it is made out of, some Pudgal. And they've connected it hums to the how the bees hum in its hive. And there's a whole explanation of how bees pollinate, what they do, and how important they are to biodiversity and how our existence. So it's very important. So the function of souls is to help one another. Paraspar means reciprocity of action. Parasya upagra means rendering help to one another. Help can be positive, it can also be negative. You can also kill each other and you can also help each other. The decision is in our hands. So vartana parinami kriya paritva paratve cha kalasya. That means kal basically, which is time, helps things change. Okay, so the function of time is to assist substances in their continuity of being through gradual changes, okay, in their modifications, in their actions, and in their priority and non-priority in time are functions of time. Vartan means imperceptible changes. So for example, આપણે અત્યારે કોકને મળીએ now, and if they knew us when we were say about 30 years ago, so they will say ને કે તું કેટલો બદલાઈ ગયો છો. But your husband or wife living with you will just look at you and think that okay, you are the same person, you know, you are there as a piece of wood in the house. Yes, what I'm trying to say is that when you are in proximity with somebody, you do not realize the small changes which are going on, but changes are happening all the time, and change is part of life. Nothing can be permanent. I mean, we observe it in seasons, we observe it in so many things. Okay, so this is what it is. So vartan means imperceptible changes, and parinam or જે પરિણામ હોય ને, that is a major modification. that is, for example, all our hair fall out, or we become bald, or we sort of start stooping, or whatever happens, that is a major modification. Sparsh, ras, gandh, varnavanta, pudgala. So the forms of matter are characterized by touch, taste, smell and color. Touch can be hard, soft, heavy, light, cold, hot, smooth, or any variations of this. Now these variations could be infinite. Okay? Taste can be sweet, bitter, sour, acidic, astringent, or variations of this. Smell can be pleasant or unpleasant, and color can be black, blue, red, yellow and white, which are the colors which we even looked at in Lescia, if you remember. Yeah? These are the basic colors, or we can have a variation of these. So this is describing what a pudgal is. Also, Shabda, Bandha, Sokshamya, Tholya, Sansthana, Veda, Tamaschaya, Tapodyottvanantascha. Okay, so sound, union, fineness, grossness, shape, division, darkness, image, warm light, which is from the sunshine, cool light, which is from moonlight, are also characterized the forms of matter when they cluster to form molecules. Okay, so for example, when we produce sound, now sound, there is a whole description on sound. Sound can be natural and man-made. So natural sound is, for example, thunder is natural. When we speak, it is our, it is pudgal again. Now, even our speech, what I am talking to you now is civilized speech. Okay, but when you had old Stone Age people and they didn't know how to speak, they used to probably grunt at each other. Or when you hear cows moving to each other, or when you hear birds singing, that speech, do you understand? No, you don't understand. But it is still a form of communication. Okay? Similarly, you will have union. Now, union can be of two things. For example, our union is what? We are at the moment in union, aren't we? Our soul is in union with pudgal, isn't it? Yeah? And then you have like a table, which is also union, because this is also union. In the sense that all the pudgals have come together to form this podium. Yeah? So there's so much description. There is descriptions about light, different types of light. There's description about division, of how division can operate, all kinds of things. I'm not going to go into that detail because I think it's just so much detail. And then the elementary particle anu and the molecules, a number of elementary particles under one unified identity, are the two main divisions of matter. So you have anu and then you have pradesh. You have pudgal. Okay, that is what it is. That which occupies one space point and has the capacity to produce touch, taste, smell, etc. is called matter or pudgal. Okay, and that is the smallest particle is anu. So what is anu? Is it a pudgal or no? Is it a skand? It is. On its own, it's a skand. Yeah. It cannot be perceived by senses per se, but when several combine to form a molecule, it may be perceived. So they are so fine, but ભેગા થાય એટલે cross થઈ જાય ને. Like આપણું શરીર ભેગા બધા થયા છે, that is why you can see me. If I were to disintegrate, would you be able to see me? No. આપણે જ્યારે શમશાને જાય and we cremate a body and then it becomes ash and then we sort of disperse it in પવન આવે બધું ઉડી જાય. Do you see? No, you don't see. Matter has a beginning, a middle and an end, and it still continues. How? How does it change? I want you to answer, okay. How does it change? With time, but what else? There is a beginning, there is a middle where it exists, and there is an end.
Change of its form.
Yeah. So it changes its form. So you are born, then you are existing for 60, 70 years or whatever, and then you die. Okay? Matter always works, but it doesn't mean that matter itself has gone. And the example they use is gold. Okay, so gold is matter. It can be made into a ring, it can be made into a chain, it can be made into earrings, it can be made into whatever. But gold still remains gold. The forms change. Yeah. So when Rajivbhai mentioned that the whole Jain, આપણું આખું Jain જે આપણા આગમ લખાણ હતા was written from three concepts. That something is born, something subsists, and something gets destroyed. આખા Jain આગમ આપણા આખું Jain ધર્મ were written from these three words that Mahavir Swami uttered. And this is what it means. Okay, some things are born, some things exist, and some things get destroyed. And it's a constant thing, moving. We need to get out of this constant moving. 84 લાખ ભાવમાં આપણે move થયા કરીએ છીએ, which is again, it's matter, which is we are forming into a matter. We are being born as humans. We form into matter, we are born as an animal. We form into matter, we are born as an insect. We form into matter, we go into Naraklok. We form into matter, we go into Swarglok. We form into matter, again we are born as and it's continuous process. But Jeev needs to separate from this matter. It needs to be independent. So molecules are formed by division, which is fission, union, which is fusion, and division from union. Thus, molecules of innumerable, numerable, and infinite space points can be produced. Are you clear? Does it make sense? Does it make sense to you? To whom doesn't it make sense? I know it's been a long week, and this is really dry, and I have no idea how I can make it sort of more colorful for you, apart from making the slide more colorful. But it is very important that you understand this, because આપણે જ્યારે કર્મ થિયરી કરશું ને ત્યારે it is very important that you understand this. Yeah. The elementary particle is produced only by division. So molecules, that means જે cluster of matter હોય ને, it can be formed by division. So તમે આ હાથ હોય, અહીંયાથી my wrist કાપી નાખો, okay? And you keep that separate, it is formed, okay? Something else is formed. It can also, if you join it back to my hand, it becomes part of my hand, okay? Or it can be a mixture. You can cut a small bit off, then join it to something else. That's the only way it forms. So this is what this verse means, 26. What 27 means is that the smallest particle, which is Anu, can only be by division of molecules. So as you split it and split it and split it and split it, that is why you can, so that is what it means, Bheda the Anu. Yeah, so Anu. So sometimes when you read this, the way I was understanding this whole thing was, I was reading this and I was trying to make sense, okay, what does that mean? Bhed means separation or division. So, I come to the quantum theory of Max Planck. Okay, I mentioned Max Planck last lecture. So, common principle of science is embodied in religion. Energy is radiated in quanta. Disintegration and reintegration is the nature of matter. Thus, objects can disintegrate but can reintegrate elsewhere. This is from Max Planck. This is Western science, and we talk about the same things. Okay, after disintegrate higher, then we integrate somewhere else. We disintegrate there, we integrate somewhere else. We disintegrate there, and we integrate somewhere else. So basically, there is a lot of, okay, I am a firm believer that maro dharma mari shraddha upar che. I believe that આ જે કહેલું છે એ સાચું છે. You might call it blind faith, whatever. I do not look at the West for justification of what I believe in. I say that what I believe in is that if West finds it, very good, if they find it. But I'm not going to look to the West or Western scientists, because I still think that they are still discovering. Mahavir Swami discovered this 2,600 years ago and a Kevli Hata. Okay? So, the matter or molecules produced by combined action of division and union can be perceived by the eyes. Can it not or can it? Yeah? For example, hydrogen and chlorine are invisible to the eye because they are both gases. Yeah? But when each one breaks and combines, it can form hydrochloric acid, which is physical, you can see it. Yeah? And that is how nature માં ઘણી વસ્તુ છે કે ઝીણી વસ્તુ ભેગી થાય અને then they can form a bigger thing. For example, I don't know if have you seen any tiny insect building a nest? Or for example, a bird building a nest. So they will collect little bits of grass or whatever, and they will collect one bit of grass and another bit of grass and another. Before you know it, there will be a little nest that they'll have formed. This is what it is. Previously, you could just see a blade of grass. Now you can see a whole nest. So this is what this means. Bheda sangat. So bhed means separation. Sangat means together. Abhyam chakshusha. Chakshu means with the eyes. Okay. Yeah, now here they talk about eyes, but it actually doesn't just mean eyes. Chakshusha means observable. So you can hear it. You can see it. You can even smell it. You can taste it. You can use all your senses to observe it. Yeah. Any questions so far? Have I rushed through this? Do you find it? Have I rushed through this? Do you want me to go back onto anything? Because this is where I will stop. Are you very clear? Okay, so let me just summarize. What is our universe made up of? Substance. What is substance called? Dravya. What are the dravyas? Ashram. Loudly म्हणतो मारा Google काम करता है. बोलो. Okay, so that is what it is. So what is the role of Dharmashtikai? Do you believe in it? Do you think there is such a thing as medium of motion? You don't believe in it. Who doesn't believe in it? Is it that difficult?
It's abstract.
If I'm moving from here to here, what do you think is making me move?
Yeah, Dharmashtikai.
No. Because I told you, but you said it's difficult to believe, so I'm just trying to tell you. I moved from there to here. What made me move? Some medium, okay? So if there was, for example, if you were in space, say you are floating in space, you go in a satellite somewhere, and then you have to go outside. There is vacuum, isn't there? They said space.
So where is the Dharmashtikai and not Dharmashtikai in space?
So why didn't you ask me that question?
It was bugging me since the last lecture, but I didn't ask you.
But then what? Okay, Dharmashtika and Adharmashtika is prevalent everywhere. Okay, it allows matter to move from here to there to wherever positions. It is so in space even there is matter. Okay, they talk about, so I think I was reading somewhere that 95%, 75% is dark matter. Sorry, 75% is dark energy, and 20% is dark matter, and 5% is matter. Okay, that's what they were. This is Western science. Okay, as I said, Mane to Maru Jain Dharma. Dharmashtika is prevalent everywhere. There are several factors which allow me to move that quickly. In space, maybe I will move, but it might take me a bit longer. Because my sharir grossness, my weight of my body, everything comes into effect there. Here, because there are other factors like gravitational pull, which is another form of Putkal, that's an electromagnetic energy. Yeah? So that is also allowing me to move. But it is prevalent everywhere, which is why planets are able to move around the sun. Okay? Which is why planets don't bang into each other. Which is why they talk about Big Bang theory, whereby they said the universe is expanding, then now there's another theory which says it's shrinking, so nobody knows in the Western science. So it's everywhere. It's just relative. Okay, on Earth is different, maybe on Moon it's different, on another planet it will be different.
No, but when the astronauts go into space, when they come out of their spaceship, they have to tie that thing, otherwise they would float away. So
it just, so Dharmatikai is not something which pushes you in a particular direction. It only creates that environment. It's like fish in a water. So water ma fish hoy. The water will not push the fish. The fish has to use its own energy to move. Okay? But water only acts as a facilitator for the fish to move.
Yeah, because there is no ground, so obviously you will float.
Okay, so we talked about Dharmashtika, Dharmashtika. We talked about Akash. So what types of Akash are there? And Alokakash. We are in the Lokakash. Lokakash has got all this area. Dharmashtikai occupies the entire Lokakash. Dharmashtikai occupies the entire Lokakash. Similarly, Pudgalashtikai and similarly Jeev. Okay, they are prevalent everywhere. Yeah? And the boundary is defined by Dharmashtikai and Adharmashtikai because that is the only area where they function in, and they are very important in order for Jeev and matter to have a combination or to separate. Yeah? And why is this chapter important?
Relates to karma then.
It relates to Jeev. So if I go back to the first slide, we looked at Samyak Jnana. Okay, Samyak Jnana was very important because we needed to understand knowledge. અત્યારે આપણે આ બધું કરીએ છીએ તત્વર્થ સૂત્ર, this is knowledge. This is the right knowledge that we are acquiring. આને કહેવાય શુદ્ધ જ્ઞાન of sorts. Okay? We looked at Jeev. We looked at Jeev. Why is Jeev important? Because we are all Jeev. Okay? The first line is सम्यक दर्शन ज्ञान चारि प्राणी मोक्ष मार्ग. ई ત્રણે વસ્તુથી મોક્ષ પહોંચાય. Okay, that's how the Uma Swamiji starts. Then he describes Samyak Gyan. The Samyak Gyan નું કેવી રીતે acquisition થાય, what are the forms it takes, how do you recognize Samyak Gyan. Then he looks at Jeev and he says what kinds of Jeev are there, what kinds of forms do we have. Again there is a brief mention of karma there, but it is not fully detailed into karma. Then we looked at Naraklok, and he therefore looked at the entire universe, which is where we as Jeev operate. We have all been to Naraklok, we've all been to Swarglok, we've all been into the lowest of Jeevs, into amoeba, we've been into so many different things, okay? We've even been born as humans. અત્યારે આપણને માનવનો જન્મ મળ્યો છે, અત્યારે આપણને જૈન ધર્મ મળ્યું છે, અત્યારે આપણને આ જાણવાની ઓપોર્ચ્યુનિટી મળી છે કે આ બધું how do I operate, where do I fit in this world? Isn't that the eternal question that we all ask? Okay, where do I fit? What is my purpose in life? Is it just to live 75 years or 80 years in life and then sort of disappear? મારું કઈ અસ્તિત્વ છે? Do I have an identity? What is your identity? Is it the name that your parents have given you? Is it the name that your children call you? Is it the name that your husband call you? Oh, it isn't. It is your astitva, your identity. Your identity is what you are as a soul. Each soul is unique. Each soul has a capability. Each soul is equal. આ તો ઉચ્ચ નીચનું ભેદ તો આપણે કર્યું છે in this world. Otherwise there is no such thing. Which is why that verse of Paraspar Paragraha Jivanam comes in, because it says that all living beings have this desire to fulfill their destiny. All living beings help each other, whether positively or negatively. If a snake comes and bites you and you die, is it positive or negative?
Depends how you look at it.
Depends how you look at it. Who else? Somebody said positive. Who said positive? Who said negative? Okay. Why is it negative? You want to live. You want to fulfill your destiny. Why do you look at it both ways?
Person must be in his last stage of cancer, and the snake bit him and he just took his life.
So you can look at it also from that perspective. You can look at it from કે પૂર્વભાવનો તમારો kind વેર ઝેર હશે snake સાથે. So snake came and bit you. You must have done something to it. It came and bit you. At that last moment, if તમે snake ને મારવા જાવ after it's beating you are dying, so you will bind more karmas. But at that last stage, જો તમારામાં સંયમતા આવી જાય, when you know that there's no medical facility which can save you, and therefore you are about to die, and you have that conscious state where you know you are about to die, and you actually સંયમતા આવી જાય, you know, acceptance, okay, આ મારું હતું, નવકાર મંત્ર બોલો, let it all move on. તો ભવતર જાઓ, okay? It all તમારી દૃષ્ટિ કઈ રીતે જોવામાં છે એ પ્રમાણે આ થાય. But it is still પરસ્પર ગ્રહો જીવન. Yeah? And that is why this chapter is important. So shall we now recite the Mangala? Chattani Mangalam, Arihanta Mangalam, Sita Mangalam, Sahu Mangalam, Devali Pranato Dhammo Mangalam, Chattani Sharanam, Loguttama, Taloguttama, Sita Loguttama, Sahu Loguttama, Devali Pranato Dhammo Loguttama, Chattani Sharanam Pavachami.